Good morning. Today is March 16th, 2018, and today I thought I would give a brief overview of the status of the FY19 school budget. The school committee and the administration released the FY19 preliminary school budget this past Monday evening at the school committee meeting on March 12th. And I thought I'd spend about 10 minutes today going over some of the highlights of the preliminary school budget. There are four major funding sources of a school and municipal budget, as you can see by this pie chart. And it's pretty common in municipal finance and dealing with school and town budgets that local property taxes do make up the largest percent of the revenue that make up a school budget of over 71.7%. State aid, which is the money we receive from the state in the form of Chapter 70 aid for education and unrestricted local government aid, make up about a little over 13%. Local receipts is the next largest piece of the pie. Fees from various, permits and fees and so forth that the town charges. That's relatively fixed amount of revenue. It makes up a little over 9%, and then various fees and tuitions that the school charges for its programs like athletic programs at the high school, extracurricular and student activities at the middle school and the high school, our busing program, as well as our full-day kindergarten preschool tuition-based programs, as well as our state and federal grants make up the remaining 5.7%. So this is a pretty consistent makeup. These percent statistics have not changed very much in the last several years, and this is pretty typical for funding sources of a school budget. If you want to look at our budget drivers for fiscal year 2019, and there are five major drivers. The first being our contractual salary obligations. Salary obligations are always a driver of the school budget. This includes the cost of living adjustments, as well as the cost for maybe some step increases, some lane movements, perhaps some longevity increases for all eligible staff. Contractual obligations generally, because salaries are such a large piece of the pie in a school budget, typically over 82%. Our contractual salary obligations, given we have about 400 staff members in various positions, and most of those in collective bargaining unions and agreements, are always a big piece of the puzzle and a major budget driver, and that is certainly the case in fiscal 2019. The other major driver is the year 3 of our NRPS 2021. What NRPS 2021 is the Educational Strategic Plan, which kind of guides our new initiatives and enhancement decisions of the school district, that is approved by school committee and put together by the administrative team with input from a variety of stakeholders. And the FY19 would represent year 3 of that, and there are some positions, which I'll get into in a moment, that are certainly driving our requests in fiscal 2019. Operational costs. The district has many fixed cost increases that certainly have presented a challenge over the last couple of years, and that is the case again in fiscal year 2019. There has been a need to adjust building maintenance line items to keep pace with actual expenditures, specifically in some of the following areas: heating and cooling and HVAC needs, plumbing needs, boiler needs, landscaping needs, elevator inspections and maintenance, our wastewater treatment facility and the operations of our wastewater treatment plant, transportation, busing rate increases for our regular school busing contract, once again increasing, as well as the utility costs for electricity, gas, water are all increasing, are all areas that we have to address annually, as well as in fiscal year 2019, and that's always a big driver of the school budget. Special education out of district costs, again, another major driver in fiscal year 2019. The FY18 budget included out of district placement and transportation costs for 36 students The fiscal 19 budget includes out-of-district placement costs for a projected 35 students. However, despite anticipating having less students in out-of-district placements in fiscal year 2019, we do anticipate the cost increasing given several changes in placements of students to more appropriately meet their needs. As we always do, we continue to evaluate our special education programs, and in some areas we have reallocated current resources to provide additional student support services, in particular in the area of social and emotional support. These programs do help reduce the potential need for outside placements in special education services. But certainly, currently 18% of our student population do receive special education services. In North Reading, in terms of students being educated outside of the district, has a projected amount of around 35 students next year, which has been pretty typical and pretty about the norm over the last several years here in North Reading. School expense budgets and small capital needs. It was a budget priority this year to restore expense budgets and small capital needs, items that don't qualify for large capital for approval through the capital improvement planning committee process with other town departments. So there was really a focus on restoring some of these line items to ensure the principals and the schools have the appropriate funding mechanisms for their instructional materials and instructional technology needs, as well as ensuring the district has a small level of line items in the amount of $15,000 for small capital to help address capital needs like upgrades to bell and paging systems, upgrade to exterior security camera system repairs, outside fence repairs, carpet replacements, cleaning equipment replacements, and school furniture replacement needs. So if you look at the numbers now in the FY19 preliminary budget, you can see that our recommendation is a budget of $31,198,533, and that is a little over 5.3% increase over fiscal year 2018. And you can, by looking at this chart in these 5 expense categories that we review the school budget in, you can certainly see those drivers at play. You have our salary obligations as well as NRPS 2021 at play here within this 4.1% increase. About 2.7% of that increase is driven by just our contractual salary obligations from one year to the next. The other amount as positions driven by our strategic plan, so new positions in the form of 3.9 FTE positions, and then other changes to offsets in the full day kindergarten program and so forth, which I can get into, make up the need for that increase of 4.1%. Our instructional expenses, the need to restore, our instructional expense budgets at the schools, as well as some small capital needs, instructional needs, technology needs at the schools, has caused this increase to go up. Operations and maintenance, we've talked a little bit about utilities and maintenance needs across the district. In the areas of facility maintenance that I just spoke of is certainly the reason for the 3.1% increase. Transportation, what's mostly behind this increase here is the actually regular transportation contract with our company is going up next year by about $15 per a bus per day, which is yielding this increase over fiscal year 18. And then the largest driver is the special education out-of-district tuition need, which is a pretty significant increase here, which is somewhat exasperated or due to a loss of offset in the circuit breaker special education reimbursement account. So we have certainly rely heavily on reimbursement from the state for eligible expenses that are above a specific threshold that qualify, are typically funded at about 75% from the state. This year, that funding level is lower than that. It was funded at 65%, that circuit breaker program, for these special education costs, which in a lot of ways you feel that impact the subsequent year, and that is the case in North Reading. We are seeing an impact there as we look at fiscal year 2019. So if I look at that 25.8% number, about 15% of that number is due to just change in placements, change in dynamic of students, and then 10% is a result of an actual loss of a revenue offset. But we are requesting a little more than $1.5 million as we look at FY19. So when we look at the next area of the budget, pie chart just kind of highlights visually what I just spoke of, but as you can see, salaries make up the largest piece of the pie at 82.6%. That is pretty common statistic in school budgets, and then most of these percentages of these other areas have remained relatively similar, although I will note that the tuitions breakdown of 6.6% is about a whole percent higher than it was last year. So that certainly continues to be a pretty big driver in this 5.3% budget increase. To get into enrollment is always a driver of the school budget. But if you look at our enrollment projections here, this is our current enrollment of 2,493. And this area here is our enrollment projections over the next 10 years or so. And you're seeing a moderate decline being projected, but not significant changes. A loss of about 30 to 40 students over the next 5 to 10 years on average is certainly not going to yield or warrant any major staffing changes. And there might be, because of changes or fluctuations in enrollment amongst schools or amongst grade levels, the need to maybe recommend some staffing adjustments per grade or per school, but there really isn't, because our enrollment is relatively moderately staying stable. We're not going to see any major staffing adjustments due to enrollment in the immediate future from what our projections are telling us. So if you look at NRPS 2021 document and what our new staffing requests are in our recommended budget, these are the 3.9 FTE positions that we are recommending. It amounts to a modest amount of $248,508. As you can see, most of these positions are geared towards the student support services strategy, and most of these positions are positions that were requested last year. Actually, I think the ones I'm checking off here, these 4 positions were all positions that we had requested in fiscal year 2018, but they were not able to be funded, and they continue to be a priority and a need. So those requests continue to be carried forward and are on the table for fiscal year 2019. But there are a lot more positions than these ones highlighted here in this chart that are in our strategic NRPS 2021 plan document. But these were the ones that the administration felt were of the highest priority based on our needs right now. And these are listed in priority order. So, these definitely continue to be a need. If you look at how the numbers break down, again, our operating general fund budget requests, which is the amount that would be appropriated, that would be asking for appropriation at a meeting, should we get the support of the school committee and various committees, would be a budget that is $1.5 million, a little bit more than $1.5 million higher, or an increase in 5.3%. That doesn't tell the full picture of what makes up a school budget. The grants and revolving accounts I spoke of a little bit earlier, for the user fees that are assessed, for the tuition costs that are assessed, as well as in the federal and state grants that we receive on an annual basis, also add up to a little bit more than $2.6 million. So the full piece of the puzzle is we actually have a school, total school fund budget amount, or total school fund amount of $33,856,651 in fiscal year 2019. And that doesn't always tell the full picture, because we also receive various donations that are accepted at each school committee meetings from local businesses, from various booster and support organizations, as well as for private donors. And those range on average of about $250,000. And then we have our parent organizations and those in-kind gifts and budgets that they have on an annual basis, which computes to about $75,000, and those help support costs for field trips, costs for enrichment activities, costs for instructional materials for teachers, staff appreciation luncheons, and there's a variety amount that goes into what the parent groups support on an annual basis. So the district has done a pretty good job recognizing those in the last few years. We continue to do so, and we are just generally incredibly grateful of the incredible amount of support that we receive from private donors and our parent groups and our support groups on an ongoing basis. So if we look at our next, what can we conclude or summarize from the FY19 budget? It's pretty, straightforward budget request. We feel like it achieves level services by allowing us to meet our contractual obligations with staff, including a salary pool to address any potential impact of teacher negotiations. It includes additional staffing guided by our strategic plan to improve class sizes for enhanced teaching and learning, mainly at the high school level. Allow us to continue our special education in-district programs to meet the needs of our high-need students. Particularly provides additional support services for social and emotional learning needs of students. Provides additional academic support needs to identified students. It allows for associated costs to properly operate and maintain the middle school and high school campus and the 3 elementary schools, which, as I explained earlier, includes increases to utility costs, increases to maintenance costs, increases to grounds keeping and landscaping costs for snow removal, landscaping, to allow us to properly maintain our school facilities. It seeks to meet the needs of all students as well as the district's high-need student population, and it attempts to restore instructional expense budgets at each school, which again have been level funded or reduced for several years. So that's essentially what we're looking to accomplish with the FY19 budgets. When we look at next steps, we'll continue to have ongoing discussions with the finance planning team. We do have a lot of work to do. The present gap of our 5.3 recommended budget is a little over 1.2 million. If we back out NRPS strategic plan initiatives and just look at level services, what we have today is what we'd have next year. We're still about $955,394 budget gap. So in terms of key dates going forward, there's a school committee budget workshop scheduled for next Thursday on March 22nd. The administration will be hosting a budget webinar for parents in the community during a lunchtime hour on March 29th. There's a public hearing on April 9th in the Distance Learning Lab at the middle school and the high school at 6:30 p.m. We will present a budget to the Finance Committee on April 25th. The school committee is due to vote on April 30th. There will be a town meeting vote on June 4th. We'll continue to await state budget actions. The budget is moving its way through the House and the Senate, and we'll continue to seek input and feedback from all stakeholders, community, parents, staff, as we move through the next several weeks, and hopefully work to a budget that we can support and be proud of as we approach town meeting. That being said, a little under 20 minutes. I'll conclude the presentation for today, and I hope you find this information informative and helpful. I'll just conclude with You can always get information on the school website. Under the district administration budget link, there's a lot of information out there, and I hope to that you take it available, that information available to you, as well as I hope that you consider participating in our first and ever budget webinar on March 29th. Great, thank you.